Hi, welcome to US History. My name is Kyle Morean, and I am so excited for you students and you parents, for those of you watching. I am really eager for this year and how we can connect and grow as a community together and have great conversations and ask tough questions and learn together. Our US History course, which is a collaboration between Miss Dowdy and Mr. Lee and myself, is a joint course. We work together. We've been refining this course for 3 years, and we're excited for us all to work together as one giant group of 200 of us, or however many it is. And so I say that up top to remind you that if you've got friends and buddies in other classes, students that you want to partner with and work with on any given time in asynchronous work, please do. Our guiding and essential question for this course is, what does it mean to be an American, and who gets to decide? I want you to pause the video for a second and consider some ideas that come up for you with that question. This essential question is so critical because it will serve as a prism that we will return to multiple times throughout the course. You will be writing and reflecting on this question from different vantage points when we consider the struggle of enfranchisement and even just the 50 years of time that lapsed between black men getting the right to vote with the 15th Amendment and all women receiving the right to vote with the 19th Amendment, the 100th year anniversary that we're celebrating this year. That 50 years that transpires of what does it mean to be an American and who gets to decide has inside of that 50 years the rise of industrial America. It has the Chinese Exclusion Act. It has America growing as a superpower through both the Spanish-American War and World War I. This question will be very fruitful when we look at power, when we understand identity, and how tools like enfranchisement and liberty come into play when we consider our country's history. For me, that brings up the relevance of this James Baldwin quote. Not everything that is faced can be changed, but nothing can be changed until it is faced. This is an ethos and a guiding light of the course for me as we think about voices that have typically not been featured in US history canon and textbooks in the past. And a big part of the dedication that Miss Dowdy and Mr. Lee and myself and Miss Franz Knight and others have put into the expanding of this curriculum to include perspectives that are not always appreciated or included in US history. So who am I? My name is Kyle Morean. Yes, my last name is pronounced Morean. I use he, him pronouns. I am starting my 11th year in the classroom. Can hardly believe it. Seems like it just started. And this is the start of my 4th year at Ballard. I teach 9th grade Ancient World History, 11th grade US History. I am the STAR Club advisor. It's the Students and Teachers Against Racism. I am one of the digital learning teacher leaders, so please reach out to me with any questions or concerns you have about the tech. I am also the head coach of the boys swim team, which hopefully will be having a season this year. And I've also included some of my resume highlights from my first 8 years teaching in Washington, D.C. So, what is this course about? Part of the revitalization and the reformation of this course has been to make it both thematic and chronological. So although we spend time mostly in following the Civil War, the Reconstruction era up until about 9/11, that's basically the scope of the course that we cover. We will, at the very beginning of the course, as we think about the idea and the establishment of power and identity and the role that the kind of creation of caste based upon both race and socioeconomic standing way back in colonial America, and how that informed documents like the Declaration of Independence as well as the Constitution. We'll spend some time up front in that era developing those themes and some context to understand that as it relates then to our central question: what does it mean to be an American, and who gets to decide, and how has that been decided? And then with that context, we'll sort of zoom forward in time and actually focus a lot on the present day. We're going to do two big projects in the fall that relate to the general election that we're having. Politics and media are a big reason that I got into both teaching and history, and that is a big part of the lens and the passion that I bring to U.S. history in particular. So we will do an entire unit in September, in late September and October, about media literacy and skill building around information and critical thinking as it relates specifically to the upcoming election and initiatives. We will be very civic-minded in the fall. And then we'll fold that into government building and enfranchisement and talk about the journeys of different groups getting the power to vote across history, and really focus on a enfranchisement and an election theme in the fall. We'll finish out the fall with the National History Day project, which is a big research paper, students' choice, and it will be about the theme question this year is how has communication impacted history, which is very broad, but students can pick different communication and media that have impacted a different era or a certain topic or theme in different points in U.S. history. So the purpose and the focus of a project-based course that is politically and socially and economically conscious, we're going to talk a lot about challenging and contentious ideas and how they relate to the development of our country. The great experiment of democracy is one of ideas and one of refining ideas that, as many of you all know and see, whatever your political leanings are, we can see the contention that we're faced with right now, and we recognize that a part of the American project is recognizing that that tension of different perspectives and opinions has always been there. It has been part of the wind in our sails that has been moving us forward. So I want to equip your students, or you students as you're watching, I want to equip you with the skills to not be afraid of politics. Both social media and clickbait news would have you be afraid of that it's too scary or that it's impolite. And I think that that is insulting to your intelligence as young people who want to understand where we've come from, how the world is the way it is, and recognize, to that James Baldwin quote, that we have to face our history if we want to improve, if we want to grow. So we will talk about challenging topics from years gone by as well as present day, and I want to ensure you students and you parents that I have no interest in students becoming little political devotees of my political outlook. I am much more eager for your students to be critical thinkers who are thoughtful as well as kind, who can have dialogue across difference in a way that is about ideas and not about essentializing people or about putting people down for who they are or where they come from. This is going to be so important to grow as civic-minded individuals, and I think that juniors in high school, this is the time to start to do that. The change in this course is part of the SPS directive that has influenced the development of ethnic studies and an anti-racism bent to curriculum and pedagogy, and I put Angela Davis on this slideshow intentionally because she not only was the figurehead of much of the Black rights activism in the 60s and 70s, but in the time hence has really been the pioneering scholar on the concept of anti-racism, a term that we hear a lot today that popular culture is only really becoming aware of. But her scholarship and the development of social justice work through her and other scholars, Bell Hooks and Audre Lorde among them, this idea of anti-racism has a lot of history to it, and it's a concept that we will explore in the course. Parents, I wanted to put some resources up here for you. These are some that I will draw from an excerpt and maybe give in full focus to our students. These are all resources that I have consumed and that Dowdy and Lee have consumed in the last 5 years that are informing a lot of the enhancements to our course. And whether that's Kendi's Stamped from the Beginning or Isabel Wilkerson's new book, Cast, I would commend to you Seen on Radio, the Seeing White 14-part series on the political and social and economic development of the race-based caste system that we have had in our country is so well documented in that series. There's some other documentaries here that I'm sure many of you are familiar with. 13th. I would highly commend to all of you, parents, Slavery by Another Name. That will definitely be assigned at a point to your students. I think it's really the part 1 to 13th's part 2. To really understand 13th, you need to go back and see the prequel, Slavery by Another Name. So those are just some resources that I would commend to you and can hopefully help facilitate some of the conversations about American history and help you to engage with students, since you will play such a key role at home to engage with this. All right, just to wrap up with some logistics. I think you all know this by now. We meet 2 times a week online. We have an expectation of 2 dedicated 50-minute asynchronous offline blocks in those afternoons, where that can basically be dedicated homework time for students. We will assign things like podcasts and readings that will happen not during the live call, but will happen during that asynchronous time. I am a writing teacher at my core. Claim, evidence, reasoning, argumentation, and critical thinking, both in speaking and listening skills, and certainly in writing, will be a big focus of my grading for this course. And lastly, just to finish on the schedule as a reminder, I think you know this, I am so looking forward to getting to know you students and you parents this year. We're going to have a remarkable collaboration and a year like no other. I was not in the classroom during the last general election. I was getting my master's, and I am so eager to see how everything unfolds in the next 2 months, and I think it's going to be a really important time to be studying U.S. history and considering ideas around enfranchisement. What does it mean to be an American, and who gets to decide? Thank you.